Hello and welcome to PlayStation Racer. My name is Mitchell Morgan and today we are heading back to the World Circuits and Dragon Trail for what proves to be a very interesting and extremely wet weather race. I'm just checking the difficulty to make sure that we're on the hard setting, and then we're going to head over to Dragon Trail for the World Touring Car 700. I'm going to be doing this in the BMW VGT on soft tyres, and then the only other adjustments I've got the output adjustment for the ECU set to 95, ballast of 200, and the power restrictor set to 94. That's just basically to bring the car within the 700 performance points, and make sure that you've got both intermediate and wet tyres for this particular race. So this is the World Touring Car 700 Dragon Trail Gardens in reverse, and we've got 10 laps to go from the back to the front. So last to first, here we go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just make sure that we've got the weather radar on. We don't need to worry about tyres and fuel in this particular race because we are almost definitely going to hit some weather. So I've just got the fuel map set to 1. The traction control is also set to 1 for this particular race, just for some stability. And at this stage, we've just really got to go for it. So braking at the beginning of that curve for the last corner, down into third through here, and this is like this little compound set of corners. Actually cut that one where you just want to be going out to the outside on the red and carrying as much speed as through there as you can. Down into second for this one, then up into third to run through this corner flat. Just run through this one flat as well, underneath the bridge, looking out for the 100-meter board, burying the brake pedal down into second gear for this one, riding the curb, and just trying to get on the back of these cars for a slipstream at this point. Up through the gears, chasing down the Corvette in front, trying to pick up a slipstream off the Ferrari right now. And in this particular corner, I just start to brake at the beginning of the curb, down into third, just take the apex, down into second for this one, full rotation. Leave it in second as we are overtaking the Ferrari and get on the back of the Corvette. Up through the gears and then fourth gear through this one, just riding this curb all the way through here and then on to the start and finish straight. So that's pretty much my lap around here. One of the key things is slipstreaming. So here we're going to be braking at the beginning of the barrier. There's like a yellow section there, down into second gear. Leave it in second, picking up the second of the apexes. It's almost a compound corner, so just keep the turning going. Then up through the gears. As we come under the bridge, we're just looking for the sort of just as you've gone underneath the bridge, I'm starting to slow that car down. Third gear through here. Oh, just got into the back of the Lexus, but watching for the red parts on that particular corner. It's multiple corners, but I just treat it as one. Third through here, just leaving it in third, taking this curb up into fourth, just apex that one, and then underneath the bridge, watching for the 100-meter board, bang on the brakes, down into second, get it turned in. I go deep very often on that corner, so try and get the apex and you'll be able to get a much better line than I am. We do get the gold in this particular race through strategy, but we're only up to 14th place at the moment, so it is purely strategy that gets this one. And I know that there are a lot of areas where I can make up time on this particular track. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not used to running this particular track, and in particular in reverse order, and this was the third time that I'd actually tried this. The first time I got really caught out with the weather, and the second time I just really was off the pace. But the reason I've got the weather radar on, look at that weather coming in. I've never seen weather like it. We've not only got the blues, but we've got the oranges, and we've even got the almost reds in there that are coming in. So this is going to be some really heavy weather. So at the moment I'm thinking about getting around to the pits as quickly as I can, and then am I going to put the inters or are we going to put the full wet tyres on? if the AI is true to form, most of the cars are going to go around for another lap. Plus, when they come in, they're likely to put the intermediate tyres on. Is the track going to dry out after the rainstorm, in which case the inters will come good? Or should we just go with full wets, considering the weather, the yellow, the orange, the purple? It gets as bad as it is, as I've ever seen. I've never seen weather that bad in a Gran Turismo 7 race. I've never seen pinks and purples. So this is going to be one heck of a wet race. This is going to come down in absolute torrents. It's going to be like a monsoon. What do we do with tyres? What do we do? Well, I do make a decision. What do you think it is? Put your comment down below as to what tyre you would do before you see me change my tyres. So as we come in, I am going to go full wets. I really don't like the weather that is coming in right now. You can see it is raining really, really hard in the pits. The weather is going to get as bad as it is likely to get. So I've gone completely full wet, and I'm just going to fill the car up. We've got a couple of other cars that have come into the pits, but at least 10 cars have gone around, really indicating that my thoughts on the AI were correct and they've gone through. And you'll notice with the tyres, just to the left of the tyre gauge where you can see I've got wets, you can see the little rainfall guide and how wet the track is, and you'll see that going up and down as we go around the track. And at the moment we're getting into a really, really blue area where this really is full wets rather than intermediate tyres. I've gone full lean on the fuel map now, just because I just want to back off slightly. And even I'm taking it easy around a lot of these corners. Even with the full wets, we can just dance around these cars that are on slicks because they're really, really struggling. But looking at the wet weather gauge, I really think that this is borderline wet tyres and intermediates. Not sure whether I've gone for the right option with the wets. Remember, if this rain does clear, then the track is going to dry out pretty quickly, and then intermediates would be the tyres. Looking at the radar, it's still really, really bad weather, although it does look like it might be clearing at the bottom. Again, doing some really, really easy overtakes, slowing the car down really, really early, turning in nicely and smoothly. I'm not going to go through my gears and the brakes and the turning points, etc., for you in this particular race, because as soon as the weather hits, everything changes. What is working for me in this particular race is unlikely to work for you in your race, and you are likely to have to do something different. Brake slightly earlier because the track is more wet than mine. Maybe brake later because the track isn't quite so wet. And then as it dries out, you're going to need to really feel the track and work out every area where you need to brake. So that's the main reason why I've come away from calling out my braking points and turning points. But by watching the video, you'll be able to see how I have approached this wet weather race, and you'll also hopefully be able to see that I get more and more and more confidence, and as the track dries out more and more, then we do start to push. And for the moment, all I'm doing is I'm just managing the gap to the cars behind. So we are out in first place. We're 25 seconds ahead of the cars behind. However, I believe that they're going to be going on to intermediate tyres, and I'm on the slower full wet tyres. So if this track does start drying out, then they are going to come back at me really, really quickly. So we are going to need to continue to push through this race. Somewhat annoyingly, at lap 5, so halfway through the race, we can see that that really bad weather has pushed through. Have I done enough have I been quick enough to manage to stay ahead of the cars behind, if and assuming that they are on intermediate tyres. So at this stage I am really giving the track a lot of respect, but also trying to push on as much as we can right now. You'll notice that the wet gauge is now pretty much just intermediate tyres rather than wets. So I do think that I should probably have gone for intermediate tyres. Would probably have made my life a little bit easier, even though the car would probably have been sliding around quite a fair bit when we came out of the pits. Again, it really depends on the weather as to which tyres you're going to use for this particular race, but this was how I got gold for this incredibly wet race. I've never seen weather like that in Gran Turismo 7. That was really heavy. Annoyingly, it wasn't prolonged, so you can see now that the track is already starting to dry out. By lap 6, my wet tyres are fine with regards to tread, but already, as you saw there, just going a little bit wide, I am starting to slide around a little bit whilst they are losing a little bit of performance. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. If you look at the wet gauge, then we are well into intermediate tyres now. So at this point I am definitely on the wrong tyres. Sorry for being a little bit croaky. It's hay fever season here in the UK and I am full of hay fever right now. I'm obviously narrating this one after the race because I did really need to concentrate, not only because of the weather, but also because I'm not used to this track, and in particular in the reverse configuration. So the weather has completely cleared at this point. We're deep into intermediate tyre territory, and you can see that McEwen behind us is now just under 18 seconds behind, and I was very conscious that with 4 laps to go, time is pretty much running out, and I did need to start to push a little bit more. Even though I've got these slower tyres, I was going to need to push and manage that gap. So this is all about tyre management, it's all about managing the gap to the car behind, and also whether those cars are going to pit again. Now, my strategy was to go the full length of the race. So I'm on full lean on fuel, so I've got plenty of fuel in the car. I'm on full wet tyres, which were put on to get us through that really wet phase and try and get some distance between us and the cars behind. I'm going to gamble that the other cars are on intermediate tyres, and that basically was my thinking when I was running this, is they're going to be on intermediates, and with this drying line and knowing the AI, they're going to come in again and probably put slick tyres on. So if they come in again, that's going to put them about another 30-ish seconds behind me, which now gives me a 45-second net lead, if that is how things pan out. Even if I'm losing 4 or 5 seconds a lap, then I'm still comfortably going to win this. So my strategy was just to stick with the wet tyres. As you can see, there's absolutely zero wear on the wet tyres. I'm not even looking for wet parts of the track to cool them down at the moment. So one of the things that Gran Turismo really needs is a tyre graphic, in particular right now, that shows the temperature of the tyre, whether they are overheating or whether they're cool. You saw then I just dropped into the wet part of the track just to cool the tyres down a little bit. And here we're now getting onto the back of the cars in front, so you can see that they're still kicking up a fair bit of spray, although the weather gauge at the moment is dropping right the way off. We're definitely into intermediate territory at the moment. I'm not quite sure what tyres those two cars are on. Oh, got into the back of the Mitsubishi a bit there. I'm not sure what tyres they're on, and I got that corner up wrong. Just pushing on a little bit too much at the moment. Come back to what I was saying, I'm not sure what tyres they're on, but if they're on intermediates, we went past them very, very quickly using the wets. Wondering if they have toughed it out and whether they are actually on slick tyres. Again, we're catching up with this Cayman really, really quickly. Just backed off to see if we can get a nice overtake on the Porsche. Puts me a little bit wide and onto the curb. That's going to allow the Porsche to come back, but he's so slow. We've actually made a mistake and still managed to come through that corner without any problems. 14 seconds ahead of the second place runner right now. And we're just trying to keep it easy really. The speed I think has come up. So if you look at the lap times, we were in a 140 and a 138 until we pitted. We then dropped off into the 2 minutes. And then since the weather has been getting better and we are feeling a little bit more confident about these tyres on this drying track, we're now into the 154s, and then more recently a 150, and that's a 151. So I think I'm quite comfortable with 150s and 151s at the moment. That's maintaining the margin to the second place car behind, who's just come into the pits, and he was, as I predicted, on intermediate tyres. So we were maintaining that gap on the wet tyres, even though he was on intermediates, which is really, really good news. It would be nice if a few of the others were to pit. That would give us a little bit more of a margin to play with. But at the moment, we've got a nice sort of 19 seconds to play with. Although the car behind is catching us slowly. That isn't going to bother us too much, so long as we can just keep this on the black stuff, facing the right direction, and just making sure that these wet tyres hold out. You can see now how the wet tyres are wearing, because I'm now starting to push on a little bit, and I'm also on the dry part of the track more, and you can see it's pretty much dry. There's a definite dry line that has formed around this track, and at this stage really this is going to play into the hands of the cars that are on reasonably good slick tyres. So minded that anybody could jump onto slicks and then come back at us. It doesn't look like there's any more rain in the sky. It looks absolutely clear, so we're committed to these tyres now. With 18 seconds, that isn't enough time to come in and put a set of slicks on. And as we cross the line, we've got a 146 for that particular lap. And then we start our last lap. So we've got the light is going now. Gone a little bit deep into that corner. And you can see that our tyres are definitely going off. So if you take this strategy, at this stage you might want to be finding some of the wet track, but also you're going to want to adjust your braking and your turning and your acceleration just to try and look after these tyres as much as you can. As predicted, a few more cars are pitting and everybody had gone on to the intermediate tyres. Was I correct to go onto the wets, or should I have gone intermediates? Would really welcome your comments in the comment section below the video. Let me know your thoughts on whether you feel that I got this strategy right. I believe I got the strategy call right, because we're going to win by a significant margin. We're 45 seconds ahead of the second place car right now. So we're on the hard settings, I'll remind you. So I think that the strategy worked quite well, and that the wets were the right way to go. But I would definitely appreciate your comments on what you would have done and what your thoughts are. For the moment though, we're just taking it a little bit easy, because the wet tyres are going off very, very quickly now. I've pretty much given up trying to cool them down. We are on the last lap. We've only got, well, this corner across the line, so we only had a few corners to go. So I just kept on the dry stuff to bring this home for a nice, easy win some considerable distance ahead of the pack. So 44.405 is the margin to the Mustang behind, 49 to the car behind that, so very, very comfortable win for gold. Easy 115,000 credits in the bank, which is rather nice. And that was my strategy for getting through this quite difficult race. It starts off completely dry. You've then got to make a judgment call when the weather comes as to how heavy that rain is going to come down. Do you go for the wets like I did? Do you go for the intermediates? Then do you build a gap to the car behind and then try for a pit stop? Or like me, to just try and get through to the end of the race on your tyre choice? It worked for me, hopefully it'll work for you, and I hope that you found this video useful and or entertaining. If you did, please hit the like button. I really would like to get a few more likes on these videos just to show that you guys are appreciating what I'm doing. And if you're new around here, please hit the subscribe button for notifications of more videos when I release them by hitting the bell button, and by subscribing you'll really be helping the channel no end, and I really appreciate everybody that is currently subscribed to my channel. For now, I am going to wrap this one up, and I will see you on another video coming very, very soon, where I hope the weather will be a little bit more favourable. For now, take care. Bye bye.